Speak truth, grow still, until the water is clear between us.
Hello, welcome to the Legendary Green Team's Malazan series. I am Hurinfan, and I'm joined today by Janath as a boy,
Hi.
Befuddled Panda,
Hello.
and Ashaman.
Hello.
Long time no see, everyone, unless you listened to our spoilers episode that we recorded yesterday. Should be coming out soon. No, probably before this one, actually. Today we're covering Toll the Hounds, Book 1, or the prologue through Chapter 6, right?
Yes.
So, spoilers. Anything you guys want to share before we start?
I can't believe it. We're at book number 8.
8.
Yes. We've been doing this for 2 years, guys.
This is the
Yes.
longest I've spent reading
This-
any book.
Yeah.
Going
This will
on
be
year 3.
Hopefully the last year, right?
Hopefully.
I mean, we have 3 books, like probably 2 Steve conversations, if we can get them back for both, and like 3 more spoiler chats. Good luck to us.
Good luck to us.
My wife is weeks away from exploding, so I likely will miss at least one episode.
We understand. How does it feel? You're going to be a dad soon.
Emotional.
Yeah.
We're buying all the baby stuff, putting up stuff in his room, and then I read stuff about Harlow, and I just cry.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Oof.
Yeah. But I'm excited. I mostly merged my fear and excitement to a reasonable level.
You've studied the ways of Gothos. You're ready to be the best dad.
No, I'm not taking lessons from Gothos.
Oh, okay. So it must be. Well, it wouldn't be Nimander, eh?
No, he's a terrible dad.
Are there any good
Sirius is-
dads?
Drawing a blank.
Absalar's dad is. I mean, he means well.
Yeah.
He doesn't succeed in being like a protective father.
I don't think they're really
Conjure
good
Burns
parental.
Tears leader's a good dad. Yeah, there's a lot more like motherhood themes.
I think
Yeah.
maybe the best dad is like Draconis. Just like an insanely low bar.
Really?
He's
Okay.
so bad.
Name me a father that's better in Malazan.
Oh, what's his name? Book 2, he saved his wife and his children, and Kalam helped him out.
Oh,
Keneb?
Keneb.
Oh, I guess. I mean, we don't really see him do any parenting at all.
Grub, Keneb, he saved his kids with his sister-in-law and his wife. That's a hero.
A
Okay.
hero, yes, but are these kids getting the emotional support they need and deserve?
I
don't
think
think
so. He
so.
talked about like him just being fine with his wife leaving him because like it's better for her. He's just kind of selfless like that, and he picks up some no-name weirdo kid named Grub, although he might have named him Grub, so maybe that's points against him being a good dad. And Grub's the best, so
It's a low bar. Oh, maybe Father Light, you know?
You gotta be kidding.
Osirk.
Osirk.
I know. I was just thinking of Osirk and then Osirk's
Oh, yes.
kid.
Osirk does also save his son, so by your
Yeah.
bar, he's in contention.
You said parental. There's good mother figures.
Plenty of good mothers.
Yeah, just not dads.
I mean, there are more positive mother figures probably, but there's still quite a few that are not good.
Well, I want to share something that I think is good to know going in. Where is it? He was talking with AP and that one guy, Philip. And he's talking about says, where is here? Oh, grief. Obviously, one of the things that is spinning around in this novel, the core that I see is not grief, and it's not absolution, it's not redemption, it's love. And you cannot have grief without love, and you cannot have love without the inevitability of grief. You cannot have redemption without love. You cannot have absolution without love. So if love is the core of the novel, that in a sense answers why it has to be Krupp telling the story. Because of all the characters in Malazan world, there is nobody who loves that world more than Krupp. And so his whole personality is a kind of exuberant expression of that love. Krupp has to be my filter because I was going to be translating some very real world personal feelings and experiences that I was going through at the time. And I needed Krupp as much as I think the reader ends up needing Krupp. And that was my defense mechanism. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Good to know.
Should we get started on the book?
Nah. Let's just do meta stuff first.
Just random thoughts and feelings on the last
No
one.
books,
I
all
mean,
meta.
That would be a good discussion, but later.
Prologue.
Prologue. In a cursed town, 4 mysterious figures meet. We do some catching up with the residents of Dregnapur. Karsa's dog and daughter head south. Krupp begins telling our tale.
Is it 5?
Are they? I think it's 4.
4, yeah, because there is one mysterious hooded figure, one guy called Edgewalker, and Shadow Throne.
Throne was there, and
Yeah.
then the man and the woman.
Yeah,
well,
but they're kind of just bystanders.
Yeah, they're just watching. They're our POV. They don't know. They don't
Wait,
have any
then
idea
who's
what's
the
going on.
4th mysterious figure?
What do you think?
They say that they're waiting for someone. I think it's Godot, personally.
I hear you.
What?
There's a famous play called Waiting for Godot where 2 people are
Yeah.
on screen waiting for yeah.
He never comes. Spoilers.
Oh my gosh.
He's gonna come, okay? Godot's gonna arrive any moment now.
Yeah. So it was an interesting prologue. At least that first part. These 2 dead people, and dead dogs, and
Wasn't there a listener question about who do we think these people are that are meeting?
Yep. So what do
Well-
you think, Panda?
2 of them are obviously Shadow Throne and Edgewalker. Called by name, right?
Yes. I thought the hooded man was Hood, but that might
Is
be
this
too.
Hood?
But that might be too on the nose. I don't know who they're waiting for, so I don't know
Give us your best guess who they're waiting for.
who they're waiting for. I mean, if it's Hood, then it wouldn't be Traveler. But if
Yeah.
it's not, if one of them isn't Hood, then they could be waiting for Traveler.
Okay.
But we see Shadow Throne meet with Traveler
Yeah,
later.
yeah. But I don't know,
Yeah.
like, timeline-wise, like,
Mm.
how late is that compared to this? But
The
from
guess
what you're
is-
saying, it sounds like they're not waiting for Traveler.
So I didn't know who they were waiting for, or think I know, until they just asked you who they were waiting for, and that made me realize who it must be. So I missed it on the reread after reading all of the Book of the Fallen and Carcanus, and only them asking you made me go, "Oh, I think I know who it is." But I think the hooded figure is Hood, and that there's no foreknowledge attached to that. That's just if there's a hooded figure. If there's a hooded figure that Shadow Throne's meeting with in these last few books, I'm like, it's got to be Hood because that's who it was in the last book too. And
so
okay,
whoever they're waiting for, I don't know. Maybe they're waiting for Cotillion to show up.
It seems like Hood and Shadow Throne became buddies at some point in the middle of the series because they were buddy in Reaper's Gale, and then presumably he's here too. And
I think they have a
the follow-up
complicated
question.
relationship.
Oh, every Ascended does. I mean, like, Shadow Throne and Cotillion are like the most closely linked, and even they have like a super complicated relationship,
That's
right?
true.
Yeah. So the follow-up question then is, do you have any idea what the meaning is about?
Oh,
This is super hard difficulty. You're not expected to get this, but it'll be interesting to hear if you have any ideas.
they are meeting about how they are going to. They're meeting about the end game, like who's gonna do what at the end, or they could just be meeting because they meet once a year. I don't know.
Like poker night.
Yeah.
see, if somebody had asked me that about any of these Shadow Throne meetings, I would have said the same thing about the end game, except not as succinctly. I would have been like, they're just doing Shadow Throne-y, Kellenbetty things. It's like the big picture, like, who knows what that guy's up to.
Oh god, I love Shadow Throne.
Still, yeah.
But I do I do have some idea of who the ghosts are.
Really?
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I could be completely wrong here, but at first I thought the woman was the Mybe because she was talking about being entombed in a crypt, but there was a lot of emphasis on wealth. So I'm like, maybe it's Lady Simtol. Maybe she's coming back.
That is an interesting guess.
That's an interesting guess.
Am I close? Okay, fine.
Should we tell her?
Would I know?
Do
think
I
so.
know the answer? Am I supposed to know the answer?
No. I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, the identity of these two people is just
I think
as
they're
far
just
as
random deados.
yeah.
I think the priest might be Haboric, but
That's
I'm
what
not
I
sure.
thought.
But he has
I thought
hands,
it was Hyboric.
doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's dead. Who cares?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like Haboric's hands are like
Uh,
spiritually cut off too. So I think
Fine,
he's
it's the
handless even in
seer.
death.
Oh, well then it's not
I
Haboric.
like the idea that it's Simtol.
Yeah, that is a cool idea. Like there probably are people that are named somewhere in the series, but at the same time, like
I just never even considered thinking about who
It's-
these dead people are,
yeah.
and you
Wait,
guessing
really?
who they are made me think, oh, well, maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Well, because I thought, oh dang it, I forgot who asked the question. But when
Sun
they
Gamer,
asked,
isn't it?
I was like, who? What was it?
Sun Gamer?
No,
think it was Sun
Eon.
Gamer, yeah.
Eon Zero.
Oh.
Oh yeah, and Sun
Well,
Gamer.
Two people, yeah, two people asked.
Yeah, so I thought, you know, these people were significant too. So if it's not Haboric, then I think my other guess was the seer, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, how can we define significance really? They're significant to themselves.
Sure.
I mean, a large part of this book is the importance of seemingly insignificant people and
That's
how
true.
no one is insignificant.
Okay, hopefully I
Um,
sufficiently answer the questions.
I think so. Should we go to part 2 of the prologue where we go inside Dragnapur?
Yeah,
I don't have
think
much
so.
to say other than that. Yeah, Dragnapur might be important.
First time we see it since Gardens of the Moon, I think. Inside of
Really?
it.
I think there
That doesn't feel
was
right.
Yeah, I think there was more than that since Gardens. I don't remember exactly when and
Hmm.
what.
Yeah,
Mm.
we've got to be inside since then. I want to say at least twice.
I
don't
think that
remember.
it's talked about
Yeah.
in Memories of Ice quite a bit, but I don't think there's actually like a visit.
Okay. Maybe I'm filling in false memories. Not too important. There's a dog. A 3-legged dog.
Yeah.
Where?
But also-
Was anyone else excited about the three-legged dog?
Three-legged dogs always excite me, but I completely missed this one.
Wait, you
Where-
talked about it in the prologue. I'm not talking about Dragnapur.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah, in the meeting, yes. You were the one who wanted to move on to Dragnapur.
I just don't. Anyone have anything else to say about Dragnapur?
Yeah, we
There
get
wasn't-
to see Apsalara, who has kind of squirreled herself away underneath the wagon and is slowly
Was that the
sawing
prologue?
away. Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
And we get to see one of the mages that Nimander had killed, like way
Ditch?
back in Guards of the Moon, impale. Yeah. And Pearl, the demon that was killed in Gardens of the Moon, who is just kind of trucking along and is being a really cool dude.
I really loved how, like, when I first read this sequence, I was so happy that Steve decided to give us Apsalara after we heard about her, and like after one of her characters is named after her, and then we get a callback to Pearl, who, you know, was this like touching part of Gardens, and then was gone, and another character was named Pearl, and you kind of think it's not gonna, and then it comes back up, and yeah. I really appreciated all of this. I was like, Steve, you're giving me all the things I want.
That reminds me. They have this really good thing with her POV. She had stolen the moon once. She had stolen fire. She had patted the silent arcing halls of city within Moonspawn. She was Lady of Thieves, and a sword had stolen her life. This will not do. This will not do.
Mm-hmm.
Apsalar's cool.
And
But, like-
go ahead.
But why? Why is she trapped in Dragnapur?
Same reason everyone else is trapped.
Yeah, Nimander killed her with Dragnapur.
But
So-
why did he do it?
She's probably trying to steal something from him.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
was
it
like
seems
she was
like-
in Moonspawn, so maybe he found her there and was like, "Hey, stop that."
Slice.
What is there to steal?
I don't know.
Dragnipper probably.
Old books.
That too. Oh god, he got
Yeah,
rid of so many old
lots of
books. We can
books.
talk about the old books in like chapter 1 or 2, 2 I think. But yeah, horrible. And Dragnipper itself is such a horrifying image, right? Like you can ride in the wagon if you get too tired to pull the wagon, right? And then you're just their bodies piled on you, and you're piled on top of bodies, and you're unable to die. Or you can fall behind and start getting dragged by those chains and just kind of like get reduced to like a hunk of flesh that still feels things. Or you can pull the wagon. It's all bad.
Or somewhere in the middle, apparently.
Or do what Apsalara does and like wedge yourself under the wagon and just kind of grind away your chains, hoping that something's going to give at some point.
Hmm.
I heard a couple of dogs escaped once.
Yeah.
Yes.
It really calls into question, like, okay, so we like Nimander, right? But killing people with this sword is such a horrible thing to do.
I mean, it's really Draconis' fault.
I mean, Nimander's he killed many people with this sword, right? Like,
yeah,
and dragons.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
so like,
it's kind of world-ending consequences. Yeah.
that's also true. Yeah. If the wagon stops, who knows what's going to happen? And a lot of this is Draconis' fault. But yeah, I'm not gonna let Nimander off the hook here. He's participated. He's complicit.
Fair.
But is he? I mean, what's more unthinkable? All the people he's killed with the sword, or not using the sword?
Um, we'll have to talk. We'll have to revisit this conversation at the end. I
think that's a good
Oh
idea.
dear. My last
Yes, he has stopped killing people with the sword, and that is irrelevant.
My last thought about the prologue is they were talking about that some village and there was a mother and a daughter and there were some twin children. I think these twins are Karsk's kids, offspring.
Notice they also had a 3-legged dog.
I forgot.
If you
the
remember that from House of
significance.
Chains, there's a
Oh,
Karsa
yeah.
rescues a 3-legged dog,
Right.
and it goes
Okay,
back.
there we go. Okay, then yay. That makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. These are Karsa's
Offspring.
It's yeah.
Daughters of rape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And last, Krupp's dancing with Karul and telling a
Yes.
story. Witness.
Yeah.
Isn't somebody else there too?
I think it's Fisher.
And yeah, so he's telling the story of Toll the Hounds, so we can guess that hey, Krupp survives the story in some fashion. So
Yeah, I've seen
Krupp
American
fans,
Beauty. That's not always the
rest-
truth.
I suppose this could be his last conversation with the Cruel as he lays dying.
No, I don't think so.
Well, that was a prologue.
Yeah, we get to move on to chapter 1.
Yep.
Chapter 1. Chalice begins moping in her gilded cage. A few of her old retired bridge burner friends do some street cleaning. Murillo really starts feeling his age. Krupp probably starts cheating in a board game. Baruch considers whether he needs the help of Nimander. I just need to start out with this because it's just this is the most morally depraved act in the series, I think. If Krupp does cheat at the board game, shame on you, Krupp. If he didn't cheat at the board game, that board game sounds like the most unbalanced awfulness ever.
Krupp probably cheated.
I think he cheated.
Or he's just very lucky.
Yeah, he could have just been like hinging his entire strategy on rolling 6 sixes, which is
I mean,
astronomically low odds.
He's more than just a human. So,
He's the eel.
yeah, that's true.
He's just like when they were creating the classes, Steve and Cam came upon like the divine soul archetype or whatever, where it's just
Sure.
they're lucky. They're favored by the gods. And yeah, he is favored by the gods of storytelling in this world, so
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. He gets an easy life.
Is anyone as happy as I am to be back in Darujistan?
Yes. This part, I was like, yay, I'm reunited with these characters. There's Crone and Baruch and the Malazan soldiers. And then the
Chalice.
next chapter was.
Yes, our favorite
Even better.
Chalice.
She was the first
Um,
POV in the book.
She was,
mean,
and I
in the
knew
first chapter.
I was like, okay, this must be her, and I was like, yeah, cool, whatever. But then it got better.
Yeah, like, no one cares about Chalice, I think.
I do.
You do?
I like her story a lot.
All right. Well, here
Was it this chapter where Murillo gets stabbed?
Yes.
Yeah. I think they got a nice parallel there. You know, actually, a lot of people in this story are kind of looking back on their old life and looking through nostalgia, and then she's upset at what her life has become, and Murillo's worried about getting old and lots of penis jokes and swords and getting stabbed. Same thing as Chalice. They're the same person.
There is a lot of mirroring in this book.
Mm.
Much more so than the other books in the series, I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Chalice is in a bad situation. I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
But like in terms of bad situations, like she's got it better than almost everybody else in the Malazan world, right?
Okay, I mean, rich people can be depressed too.
Yeah, that's very true. Like I'm not entirely indifferent to her, but like in terms of compelling characters, Chalice is not one of them for me.
Fair.
I like my sad girls to be poor like Absalar.
I was gonna say that I feel like I should have reread like Gardens, Dead House Gates, and Memories of Ice before coming into this book. But we got the Getaron Vet.
Getaron Fate.
Which I remember like during our hiatus, I was like, I feel like there aren't that many festivals and holidays in the Malazan world, and now, hey, voila, we're back here again. And I actually started reading this chapter on our New Year's Day, so that was a nice coincidence. But do any of you know how many days this festival is?
I get the impression that there's always a festival going on in Duristan.
Really?
It seems like it. They're always partying, right?
But isn't
It's
it the
the city of
Getter and
hedonism.
Fate the 2 times that it happens in the series?
Yeah, it's like once in Gardens and then here.
Yeah. But there are mentions of like other parties that go on, right? And we see other parties both in Gardens and in this later on, I think.
Well, I was just curious, like how many days this festival is, because doesn't is a spoiler. I might have spoiled myself. Doesn't this book just take place like during this festival? Like the time span of this book is actually fairly short.
At least a couple weeks. I think it's at least a month, probably longer.
Really?
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the festival is just 1 day, too.
No, it's a multi-day
in-
festival.
Is it? In Gardens, there was one party that they were all looking forward. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's in the street partying, and that's it. It's just 1 day.
No, I think in Gardens, it's like the events of Gardens concluded during the festival, but the festival wasn't done. Anyway, I guess not important.
Yeah, and this book takes place at least a month. I'm fairly confident saying that.
Oh, okay.
Pretty meta parts when Baruch and Crone were talking about the books and the reliability of historical
history.
And also, Baruch is reading it's like, this is overwrought garbage. Who does the author think he is?
Show me a written history that makes sense, and I will show you true fiction. That's what Crone says. If that is all you want, then look elsewhere.
Meta.
Very meta.
I got bad news for everyone that's not Panda. It's a
Oh.
multi-day festival, and the events of this book start at the beginning of the festival and end at the end of the festival.
Oh my god, the Darujistan is just a city of people who have way too much money, it seems.
At least according to the wiki.
I think that's probably where I saw it.
That's hilarious.
The wiki could be wrong. That's
the
what
wiki's wrong.
The first words on the wiki are a multi-day festival, and then when you scroll down, it's like Until the Hounds. Da-da-da-da.
It's a long party then.
I mean, can I live there? No, actually, I don't want to live there.
Okay,
You want to live in Black Coral with me.
I'll reevaluate my assumptions at the end of the book, but certain things I can't believe didn't happen in less than a month.
Okay.
I also like when you are reading this book, a lot of the scenes in Darujistan do not feel like they take place during a festival.
Mm.
Despite I mean, I don't know. And in Gardens, at least, the one day that I knew that we were in a festival, it seemed like it affected the whole city, and like everybody was focusing on it for that day.
Really, this
Yeah.
chapter did. Malazan's getting murked and revenge murking back.
Yeah, I mean they don't really get murked at all. Like they kind of just murk the assailants, the mercs,
Yeah,
and
it's
immediately. It's not even close.
reverse murk.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Their illusions get murked.
that's true.
Yeah.
That was a fun little twist there.
I enjoy that part.
Which of the bridge burners are you happiest to see again? Obviously me is Blend, but what are you guys?
I think it's gonna be Mallet.
I
Yeah,
do really like Mallet.
Antsy, that's an interesting answer. I like it.
Antsy, Picker, and Blend, but Antsy, I like how he's like a paranoid, like
Pervert.
yeah.
I just like sad boys, so Mallet's okay.
I mean, obviously the one that I like the most isn't here yet. I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to see.
Who are you talking
So,
about?
Fiddler.
Hair shirt? Oh, okay.
No.
He's- I assumed he meant of the retired ones.
Of the
There's
ones
only-
that could have been here.
Yeah, there's only one left that we
Sorry,
haven't seen, right?
Fiddler's not going to drill through the earth or through Wu
Yeah.
to come to Darujistan.
He's not going to shoot himself out of his own crossbow and land
Oh.
in the plot here.
Who's the one that's on a pilgrimage that we haven't seen
Hair shirt.
yet?
Spindle?
What's his Spindle?
Spindle, yeah.
Okay,
Spindle.
Yeah, he's gone. We don't know where.
I mean, these ones are all right. They're not like my favorite, and so I'm just happy to be back in their banter and their dynamics.
They're the classic bridge burners, I think.
You think they're classy?
The classic bridge burners. When you think of the
classic.
rank and file bridge burners, it's like Picker and Blend and Antsy and Mallet.
Yeah. I think of all of these, I agree with Hurin, Mallet.
Did y'all catch the wow. So Baruch's reading the documents of the bullshit basically, and he's like, "This is bullshit." And they're talking about the thousand gods, and they talked about what was the words? A stalwart ally broken in with blood on his face. So the chapter ended with those lines. So who? I'm just gonna say it is Draconis. So
Doesn't it say Draconis?
well, it says Draconis later on or early on when he's
okay.
reading the document, and then the chapter ends with him thinking about the stalwart ally with blood on his face. So
Got it.
Yeah. They do mention Draconis in Dragnapur as well.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Dragnapur, Draconis, it's going down.
Yeah. Okay, we good for chapter 2?
Yeah. Two of us
Next.
put up 2. Wow.
Chapter 2. Seer Domin and Spinnik Dorav square off in a game of Kef Tanar before the first does a bit of murder and the second meets with Nimander. And as Salon consoles himself with the knowledge of a new supply of eels.
Exciting.
Oh man, I feel so much for Andis Solani here. He's kind of a broken man, and he sees himself in a very warped way, and he's trying so hard to put up a good front, I think. And
That's exactly it.
yeah, he's like, "Good news, friend." Spinning to
I have
like,
eels.
I found a new supply of cadaver eels.
And that's the thing. Like later on, you could see from his perspective, Nimander respects the guy a lot, and like he feels so inadequate compared. It's sad.
And he did like a Herculean task to get to this point, right? Like he kept the sea out of Moonspawn for like weeks, I think it was.
Years.
Years, decades even. Which if you just consider the square footage of Moonspawn and the how deep they had to go into the ocean, that's some serious majory right there.
Yep.
I'm gonna be real honest.
No, don't do it. Don't say that you hate my boys, the Andy.
I mean, I don't hate them. I just they're not my favorite. and I kind of start skimming when these Tystandii
These-
show up on the page, except for Nimander.
These sad boys. I think you'll end up liking Spinnik Dorav, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
I love
But
Spinnik.
not if
I
you
love
skim past
Endist.
all the stuff that would make you like him.
Yeah, that's true.
I love Keftanar. I love Seer Doman. And
Yeah.
Nimander and Cruz conversations are the best.
Um,
Do we get
I
another-
like
No?
the Andy of Coral, so I like into Salon and Spinnik Durav.
Yes, Ash, that's his
Man,
chapter.
the-
We do. Yes, we
The
do. Yeah.
Nimander and Crew stuff can be hit and miss for me.
who?
The Nimander and Crew stuff,
Oh yeah.
and it's kind of painful to listen to some of it on audio because the narrator will say the names Nimander and Nananda like 30 times back to back, and I'm supposed to be following, and I'm just like, nah.
Why did he name them so closely?
When you're reading, it's very obvious. Like if you look at it, it's
Look at
obvious. But if you're listening to it, like it was not written for audiobook, and I don't have time to read these books with my eyes right now in my life. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna get this.
Yeah.
It's just not happening.
I'm conversing with some Philistines. Because The Forest Does Not Change is a great convo.
I mean,
it's just a worse version of the sea does not care for you or dream of you.
No, it doesn't. It
It's
does.
just-
It's not even talking about the same thing.
It's not talking about the same thing, but you're like it's elemental forces. It's kind of like a downer, and it's the Teist, and
I see. I don't think it's a downer at all.
it's a book apart.
I think it's about finding meaning where there is none.
The force does not change.
Yeah.
No, it's about whether or not you find meaning, and which meaning you find. It doesn't matter. Like you're still in the same forest, so why not look at the bright side, or why not interpret it with meaning?
Yeah, sure.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a downer.
Kind
The
of a downer.
opposite. It's an argument against a downer. It's an absurdist argument.
It
It's like-
depends on your priors, I will say. There are a
Alright.
lot of
I like hearing clips about his bullshit, and then everyone just kind of rolling their eyes behind his back, except for one of them. And then the manager's just like, "Hey, just go along with it. It's fine."
So
I-
I like their conversations. The plot around the Kellic stuff is the stuff that is boring to me, and a lot of where they are throughout this part of the book is based around all that Kellic stuff. Like the scarecrows were cool, but just like I feel like it can drag a little, maybe more as the book goes on. So I should have brought this up later, honestly, actually. But
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually have the exact opposite opinion of you.
what?
It's funny because I actually have the exact opposite opinion. The conversations I could take it or leave them, honestly, but the imagery and the situations that happen around them I find more interesting.
I will
Well,
agree that in this book so far, in like these 6 chapters, there is a lot of striking imagery, and I find myself like highlighting parts, not because like they're my favorites or anything. It's just like that the way that you put those words together was very effective. Which I have an example. Like, and this one's more like positive. It says, bird song to awaken the sky to light, a musty warmth hinted at in the soft breaths rising from the hummus. The air smelled impossibly clean. It was like, I could almost like smell the air just like reading those words. And then there's like other parts where it's much more gruesome. And I'm like, since when did I start reading a horror book?
All right.
Since Dead House Gates, really, but but yeah, it does weave in and out of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to give Ash a point here, and we'll talk about it more in chapter 6. But the stuff happening around them, the High King. Like when I think of this book and what I love about this book, it's Darujistan, it's Krupp, and it's the High King. Like, not that they're the only things I care about in this book, but I love Calor, and Calor's in the Nimander sequences. So, and I love Calor in this book, not just Calor in general. I do love Calor in general, but in some books, he's better than others, and in this book, it's like just above him in Memories of Ice. And
See, here's the
it never
thing.
it never gets as good with Calor as it does in this book, in my opinion. He's the best. I love him in this book.
I hear you say that you like Keller so much, and all I can think about is like, how dare you? Maybe my opinion will change by the end of the series, but currently I'm like, I cannot be further like on the other side than you.
Okay, so I like reading Calor. He's an interesting character. I don't like him as a person.
Okay.
Like I'm not like I don't want to be friends with Calor. I'm not
Got it.
necessarily rooting for him per se, but I like his personality, and I think he's funny, and I think he's interesting, and like
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Or the dog whistle.
he has one of the funniest. He has one of the funniest introductions in Gardens of the Moon, and it's so minor that I like honestly forgot who he was after reading that in Gardens of the Moon. Like he's so underused in that book, and then in book 3, he's just hilarious and awful, and his history lectures are great, and he's super bad donkey, and yeah. And this book, he's more intriguing and interesting. Like he was a little in Memories of Ice, but it's more so when we get to chapter 6. I want to read at least one of the 2 Cal passages I have read it.
Okay.
I like reading Cal. I don't like him as a person. To be clear, I'm not a psychopath, and I don't
Okay, you've
endorse
redeemed
mass
yourself.
murdering dictators who kill all their wives and.
He didn't kill them. He just locked them in towers to starve to death. He killed his children.
That was in this sequence that we read, right?
Which is a mercy.
Yeah, it was a mercy, right? Yeah, I'd swear fealty to Calor if he was alive and walking around. Just be like, hey, Calor, you want a follower?
No.
He is really interesting though, and my impression of him when I had started this book and picked up again was like he's a man entirely just with his head up his own bum.
Yeah.
And entirely hot air. He has like no conception of his capabilities at all. So whenever he was just like saying stuff like, "Oh yeah, I could kill a dragon, and like maybe 2 would be a bit of a struggle, but like it'd be a fun struggle, you know." I just straight up didn't believe it. Like, Calor, he'd be. I mean, how do you think he survives everything, right? Like, jeez.
He's been around long enough. I think he knows what he can do.
Yeah, we can talk about that again later. But that's what my impression was at the start of this book, because he spends like all of Gardens of the Moon and Memories of Ice getting dunked on by everybody, right?
That's true.
That's fair.
Yeah, until he beats a cripple in the end of Memories of Ice, and then it screws off.
Let's get back to Nimander.
Ugh.
If we must.
Okay, Clip. Everybody hates Clip. Like, cue the everybody hates Chris music, but it's Clip. Okay, dude's terrible. He is incredibly arrogant. He is so confident in his bullshit, and like Nimander set up as a stark contrast to him. So why don't people like Nimander more?
Because Nimander is not an active character. He's passive.
Yes,
I disagree with that.
But he is. And this, as of now, he has not done like a single thing of his own volition except for almost killing Fade, but withal kills Fade, right?
Which, I mean, I'd say takes some initiative, doesn't it? The dude stayed up for like days on end, tried to kill his sister. Sure, he failed. But
You're not making a compelling point.
I don't know. Nimander's great. You're wrong.
I've appreciated him more in this. I also appreciate how I think everyone hates Clip by the start of this book, and we get so many more reasons to hate him because like there's this sequence where he's like thinking about his dead civilization in Blue Rose. He's like, well, I guess they put too much their power into these rings that I'm always clicking and clacking around, and I can kind of hear their souls when I do it. That's pretty cool, eh? I'm always landing on my feet, eh?
Ugh.
Yeah, screw Clip. He is probably a sadist.
Like, why go save him? Sorry, that's a later
Because you
chapter.
can.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Do you think you should save people that you only like?
Like?
I mean,
Like?
I don't really know what Clip's purpose for this whole story is. So
His purpose is to be instigator.
We've read book 1, so
Yeah.
did you know that in this chapter it is the first mention of Carcanus in this whole series so far?
really
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah, because like I know the name Carcanus because you guys talk about it so much.
You just won't shut
We
up about it,
do?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but I had no idea what Carcanus actually was until this chapter.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Pretty cool town. I hear their
So he
nightlife was
just
amazing.
wrote like books about the city.
No, I mean it's a
Oh.
major setting of the book, but no, it's not just about the city.
Okay.
Yeah. The Civil War in Carcanus is kind of the setting of the Carcanus trilogy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And a
I
lot
see.
more than that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lot more.
Interesting.
Yeah. See, I wonder. I really like all the Carcanus stuff in this book, but if I didn't know there was a prequel trilogy called Carcanus, I wonder if I would care as much about it. And I don't have an answer to that because I was like already like excited to read Carcanus, and I'm like, oh, we get Carcanus stuff in this book. Like,
I know, that's
so
kinda how I feel every time they talk about the First Empire. I'm like, ooh, First Empire, tell me more. We don't have a First Empire book.
Not yet.
Yeah. I did like mark in my notes a question. Why is Rake interested in a sale? I don't have an answer. That was just a
Because
question.
people just keep bringing back stories. It's like Assail is the most hardcore continent ever. It's like a super high level zone where you get crazy difficult mobs. It's like, oh, I could take down a raid boss or two there.
Like,
wasn't he just like kind of checking on it to see if whatever's going on there is like bad enough that he needs to intervene for like from like a geopolitical / like
It seems he is
metaphysical perspective.
involved in geopolitics to a certain degree on Genepakis.
Right. Well, yeah, not just that, but like the geopolitics of the realms too. Like the Warrens and existence, all of that. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily know what's going on in Assail. That's the only book I haven't read yet. But Tattersail went there with like a giant army of Talani Mass, and we haven't heard about her in like 5 books. So,
and we won't, right?
And we won't. That's true.
I liked when they went into the palace and like there were 2 like I don't know low-level priests who were just scrubbing. They're like, it's clean already.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we didn't have anything better to do.
Right.
Oh, they weren't servants? I thought they were servants.
I think they
Could be.
were. They were like servants for Nimander's residence.
They were like human servants.
They were human,
but they didn't have like anything to do because the Teist are such the low population that they don't make enough waste and mess and have enough
and they're
needs
not
to
demanding
maintain
enough.
their own servants. Yeah. They're
probably all just like in their rooms moping.
So they like have employment but no work to do basically. I'd be reading.
Yeah, and it kind of strikes as like a contrast between the humans and the Teist, because the Teist, given nothing to do, will just do nothing, and the humans, given nothing to do, will find some meaningless stuff to
do. Yeah.
Chapter 3?
Yeah, Chapter 3. I agree. Chapter 3. Dr. Mallet saves Murillo. We get some insight into the state of the Caravan Guard rivalry in Jerusalem. Torvald Nom comes home. Humble Measure thinks about the best way to get himself killed at the hands of the veterans in town. Spite's crew pulls into harbor and goes their separate ways. Ralik Nom wakes up.
Okay. Can you guess who my favorite character in this chapter is?
Torvald Nom?
Gruntle.
No.
Ralik?
No.
Oh, erased. Yes.
Yeah!
Of course. That's the obvious answer. Everyone's favorite character in this chapter is Raced.
Yes.
I like Humble Measure.
You like Humble Measure?
I do. I like Humble Measure.
Oh, wow.
I like the name Humble Measure. It's quite distinct.
First time I read the...
I think he's a complicated guy with complicated history and like kind of a reasons to do what he wants. And he kind of pulled him up by his own bootstraps and
Yeah, I when I read the book for the first time, I was just like, "Who's this loser?" I don't
He
care
lost
about
like
this
his
man.
whole family and his entire life.
Yeah, he couldn't save them. Ugh.
He was a kid.
Yeah, like that's an excuse.
Okay.
No, I just I used to hate him, but it's hard to.
Is this the same chapter where the guy, the guild assassin guy who we met in Gardens and talks to Rallick about everything that's happened since Rallick woke up, since Rallick went to sleep?
Either this one or the next one that's in Darujtan. I don't think it's
Well,
this one though.
I think it's the next
Okay.
chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. We
But
can
yeah, Race is awesome.
Huh?
Well,
Race is
Race.
awesome.
he
I like
says, "Will you now leave?" Well, first of all, he kicks Ralik Nom awake, and then he says, "Will you now leave, never to return, abandoning me to eternal solitude, with naught but cobwebs in my bed and bare cupboards in the kitchen, with mocking draughts and the occasional faint clatter of dead branches against shutters?" And he goes on and on. "Will you simply leave me to this world, assassin?" I'm like, dude is hella dramatic.
Right? And in my, like, it seems clear to me he's just messing with Ralik Nom here.
And
Like,
like,
I don't think
I
he really
just,
cares.
I still can't get over what a 180, like, me as a reader, how I feel about race, like from Gardens of the Moon to here. You know, that's just like, it's crazy.
I feel bad for him.
He's a real jerk in Gardens of the Moon. So.
Oh, he's the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I mean, he
and
was the big
I
bad in Gardens, but now he's just like, "Oh, you poor thing."
I think that if he was free, he would immediately go back to his tyranny. So,
Mm,
like, this is really the best place for him, I think.
okay, fair.
But he is fun to spend time with, despite being like one of the bigger mass murderers slash autocrats in the series.
Yeah.
He called
And
Vorkin
like,
a demon.
he did, yeah.
There was another part in this chapter where I was like, "Whoa, this is like very horror vibes." It was when, oh, I forget the characters. Maybe it was like Lef and whatever that other guy's name is.
Fortune left.
Yeah, and one of them was eating the meat in a conch, and the conversation goes like, it's conch or conch, however you want to say it. It's a thing with
Conch.
eyes on the ends of its tentacles, watching as you cut its body apart. See how the stalks swivel, following up to your mouth, tracking every swallow. It's watching you eat it. So what? I'm like, oh
This
my
is
god, no,
isn't
I can't unsee that.
isn't this just like a significant part of East Asian cuisine?
I
Like with
mean,
like live octopus?
I don't participate in that. I don't want
I
to eat
don't know.
anything
Yeah.
that's still alive, like wiggling and like looking at me.
Horrifying,
No.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it? Conch? Conch?
Conch.
Conch.
Conch? Conch?
We
Conch.
had this
Conch.
conversation before.
Okay. Wait, I'm gonna say conch.
Okay,
That's
sure.
yeah, yes, yeah. As long as the ch is still ch, you're good.
And we learned that Gruntle can command the dead.
Yeah, that's surprising, right? That's pretty funny.
It's a low key horror part of this book too.
Go back to Hood.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this conversation with the caravan, the guy who hired the caravan.
I feel like they if they were gonna like make so much money off of it and like have insurance help them with the costs, they were like bargaining way too hard with a guy that's as scary as Gruntle is.
Second uncle.
Yes,
They're not the
absolutely.
smartest.
I'd be
I
like,
mean,
nah,
they
dude,
need
it's
more
cool.
money.
My last note for this chapter is Iskral Pust and the mule and the sex change of the mule. Because it was so, I was like, wait a minute, isn't the mule a male? And then Magora just, she says it in the book. And I was like,
Yeah.
thank
Yep.
you.
This
Yeah,
mule is a powerful creature.
I don't know.
Do
I
we
really don't know.
find out like what is up with the mule by the end of the series, or that's just like never explained?
The mule will remain a mystery
Okay.
to everyone, I think.
Though there will be some fun stuff with the mule to come. We're not done with the mule.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not done with the mule.
Okay.
But the
More
mystery will
the-
never be.
Yeah, the like the ship pulling into harbor moment. You might as well have just played the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack over, because it's like you separated Jack Sparrow's famous intro in the first movie into like its constituent parts. So Spite is like the proud regal part, and then just like a bunch of monkeys. And if you put those two characters together, you do get Jack Sparrow, right?
That is a very good description. And now I also can't unsee that.
You're welcome.
It's super sexy though.
I
I
hear.
mean,
Yeah.
Jack Sparrow is.
I would.
The eye makeup.
It's totally the eye makeup.
I've heard very many good things about Jack Sparrow. Yeah.
From whom?
Well, from my friends who are attracted to men. Like I don't see it, but
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
I believe that it's there.
Okay.
Or
Yeah. Not much to say about this chapter. I think
it was fun.
I guess Murillo's in a funk because I don't know.
He got
He's old
stabbed
and young.
in the middle of sex.
Women still want to bone him, which poor him.
Yeah, poor him.
He also got stabbed.
He did get stabbed, and like right at the that's
Climax.
got to be rough. Yeah, but like memorable moment, I guess. Better than just before, for sure.
But I mean, I was
Um,
like, he's not gonna die. Like, he can't die. So I wasn't too worried. I
Yeah,
mean,
Murillo
I
can't
was
die.
like, oh no. But at the same time, it's like, he's gonna live.
Steve likes him too much.
Yeah, didn't
Probably.
Crocus say something like that? Or yeah, Murillo. Yeah, I think it was the next chapter. He's like, Murillo can't die.
Yeah, maybe. Chapter 4. Traveler has an implausibly badass landing. Nimander and co. arrive in a perfectly nice town with sane people. And as Salon reminisces about the good old days. Seerdomin rejects the call to adventure. Spinach Darav participates in what seems to be the best religious ritual.
The Redeemer is Jesus.
Obviously.
I don't feel like that needed to be said, but in case anybody didn't know,
Yeah, it's not like a 1-to-1
it's like
parallel, but
1 to 2,
it's very close.
maybe 2 to 3.
Okay. It's a Covian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the memory of a Itkovian or whatever.
Whatever people are worshiping about, like Itkovian.
Yeah.
When they were first describing Traveler's Landing, I was like, is this Karsa?
Mm.
Because it was so like unbelievably ridiculously over the top Herculean stuff. I was like, it must be Karsa, and there's Traveler. Like, hell yeah.
Yeah, he likes this through this insane storm. They crash onto the beach. He barely makes it to shore. Then a bear attacks him, almost bites his head off. He kills the bear and then eats its heart.
And drinks its blood.
And drinks all of its blood.
When I first read this sequence, I did it in order where like I had read Return of the Crimson Guard last, so I like was following Traveler's journey sequentially through the series. I have no idea where he was last for the reader following in publication order at this point because I forget.
Crimson Guard was the one before this one, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He someone he liked was killed.
I know that, and
Okay.
then
You got another.
I think there was like something in the realm of shadow, and he had a meeting in a hut, and there was a monkey, and then he's here. I'm pretty sure. And yeah, Steve and Kim just keep throwing him back and forth like a rag doll between these. Yeah, this was an incredibly awesome intro for Traveler, and I liked it.
It's a good thing that Shadow Throne and Cotillion gave him a bear to fight.
Well, yes. I mean, I think
would've
if
started
it
with
had
it.
been Karsa, then he wouldn't have gotten like part of his head bitten. Karsa would have already
Karsa
punched
would have
that bear.
made. He would have made the
Karsa gets
bear
beat
his
up
new
all the
steed.
time.
My jag horse isn't here. I will ride you.
Oh god.
Did you like the conversation between him and the other two?
Cotillion and Shadow Throne.
Is that in this chapter too?
Yeah.
thought it
No,
was.
it's chapter 6.
Oh, just kidding.
Yeah.
Never mind.
It's even in my
It was the
summaries.
worst. I hated it. The one this chapter that was bad.
Yeah, the one in chapter 6 is much better. I agree. Yeah, the Nimander and Co arriving in the town, it feels like a D&D setup to me.
I
and a
was
very
thinking
good
the
one at
same
that.
thing. It's
Yeah,
like you come into a mysterious town. There are scarecrows. It's creepy as hell.
Upon closer inspection, the scarecrows appear to be humans, vomiting their black blood onto the ground. Yeah.
Ugh.
What do you do?
They seem to be exporting some type of drink.
Mm.
Will you investigate or move on?
Okay, so
You move on.
the black
Like
drink.
80 sessions later, the world ends.
The black drink, is it those people's blood or whatever is coming out of them?
It might be distilled. It's in some way.
Yeah, so it's like they're like irrigating these fields, and there's
Ugh.
black flowers are growing, and it seems like the drink is made from these black flowers.
Ugh. See,
Yeah.
horror.
It's the spookiest stuff that Steve ever writes. I think this one.
I agree. But it's metal.
It is pretty metal.
I don't really have much to say other than cool setting and F clip. Clip.
He's just the worst.
So speaking of Nimander, like, well, in the conversation, I guess in his head, like Fade is speaking to him,
Could
which
be a
I don't
ghost.
know. Well, I don't know if it's really a ghost or if it's just like his version of her.
Doesn't really
I think
matter,
it's
but
his
yeah.
version of her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, his version of her says, "Recall that poet Nimander, that woman of Carcanus. Enderus was reluctant to speak of her, but I found in the old scrolls all her writings. Da 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 da. It's like, they will not speak her name, a name forbidden, but I know it, shall I?" And he's like, "No, don't say it." Do I know who this person is? This poet?
I don't
I
think so.
don't know who it is, so
Yeah.
Oh, does it matter?
probably not. Maybe a female
Then why
poet
make
from
it a big
Carcanus.
deal?
A female poet.
Yeah,
I
that
feel like I'm just
woman
working
of
on ignorance.
Carcanus. And like, why not say her name?
Too painful for him, I think.
Okay, sure.
I think Nimander makes it really easy to forget that he's not like a 16-year-old boy, with the way he thinks about the world. But yeah, he's like hundreds of years old, I think, something like that.
If not older.
Yeah, which it's maybe this is why people don't like Nimander. I don't know.
Guess he's angsty.
He's like angsty in like what often feels like a juvenile way to me, at least. I don't know.
I
How it
don't
feels
think
to other
angsty is the
people.
right word.
Mm-hmm.
I think contemplative.
Okay.
That's probably the most charitable way to say it.
No, like he thinks a lot.
Some would say too much.
Oh.
I mean, it's not a mistake that a lot of Nimander sections and a lot of Animander sections are put right next to each other.
Mhm.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
Maybe they should both take up journaling and just get it out of their heads.
I think that if Animander just like loosened his grip, like his iron grip on himself, like a little bit, he would just fall apart because of all the trauma he's built up and repressed over the years.
Ah, that's true.
And contrasted with a lot, Seerdomen, he meets with the quote priestess of the Redeemer, and he's just like, no, I'm not going to do this. Screw you guys. I just want to be this guy's friend. Why are you making me into something I'm not? And he just kind of screws off, which I find hilarious.
Good
And
for
a bit
him.
irresponsible.
You think it's irresponsible?
I'm not really
bit.
sure, like, what exactly they wanted him to do. Wasn't it like this one dude, Gaddiranth, or something? That
Something
was
like
like,
that. Yes, with the G.
They
He
just
was like-
didn't they just want him to be like a symbol of protection for
The
the
pilgrims?
shrine? Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't sign up for that. He just wanted to be a friend.
That's true. But his attitude towards them, I think he goes a bit too hard in the other direction, which, to be fair, considering his history, is understandable because
Well,
he was a zealot in times past, and that went horribly, and he did horrible things, and some not horrible things. But
and not only that, like he's not even wanting redemption because he doesn't feel like he can get redemption, and he feels that them people putting him up on a pedestal like this, like, is treating him not the way that he feels that he should. Like he's working on like self-esteem right now, and it's as low as ever.
Mm.
He just can't see the people's reverence for him.
And he also seems to accept that, like, since he is damned, he might as well do the horrible things he sees as necessary. Like when he kills those 3 men who are maybe plotting rebellion, maybe not.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
So I think it's understandable what he's doing, but yeah, like considering what happens later and his interactions with them, yeah, I think he could have probably handled it better. But everyone can handle situations better.
I think we did like get a little ahead of ourselves because I think the priestess coming to him was in chapter 6.
Her coming
she has
to
a conversation
him
with
was
him here.
Yeah, but
Oh.
he sees her and they talk at the shrine itself in this chapter.
Gotcha,
That's when he
gotcha.
rejects the initial call.
Mm.
Yeah, and he's like, "Whoa, she's like 16 or something," and she'll like,
Oh.
yeah. So she's contrasted with like the priestesses of Dark, who are like obscenely old, and yeah, Mirrors. Spinrav gets to have sex as a religious ritual, and that's nice. Good for him. Apparently, he's really good at it too.
Ugh.
I liked Endist Salon's descriptions of the rift between Mother Dark and Nimander, and just like Rake's anger and the storm inside of him against his Mother Dark.
I do too.
I have to be honest. Those parts are not that interesting to me.
I like him.
Uh,
You know,
There's
she's
not
gonna drop a
much.
bombshell when she starts. I'm gonna be honest. We should put that on a T-shirt.
Uh,
Yes, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask you, Panda. So as far as the rift between the Andy and Mother Dark, like, so what do you think we know at this point, and what do you think about it?
A mother rejected her children because she thinks that they did something bad and unforgivable, and they are upset with her because they think she's too harsh.
Yeah,
This is just
fair
yeah.
summary, I think. Yeah. We get a bit of the specifics of why here, but yeah.
Aren't they
Well, I
also
mean,
pissed because she made the Leosin or something?
oh yeah, she like went off and had other children.
Yeah, that's also part of it. But like Nimander came to her at one point and was like, "Hey, Mom, I stopped the Civil War," and she's like, "Oh, you murdered everybody." He's like, "Yeah, I mean, there's peace, isn't there?"
And part of it has to do with them accepting the blood of dragons.
Yes, that too.
Why doesn't she like dragons?
She's
Chaos.
just racist.
Yeah,
Okay.
she doesn't like those foreigners, you know.
They're chaotic.
And to be fair, she's right. Like,
Damn
we
dragons
get
getting in our neighborhood.
we get mentions about how like mixing the blood just causes people to go crazy for the most part, and like be incredibly backstabbing and stuff. So it's not just that she's horrified by what Animander's done. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, there were parts about Calor, right?
Oh, that's true. I actually have a
Did you
quote
wanna
from
talk about
Calor.
that?
So
Is that banality?
yeah. It's the. How did you know?
Because it's a good quote.
It is a good quote. Yeah, I'm gonna read it out. Every emperor in every realm, through all of time itself, soon found that the lofty title and all its power was an existence devoid of humor. Even excess and indulgences palled eventually. In the faces of the dying, the tortured, well, they were all the same, and not one of those twisted expressions vouchsafed a glimmer of revelation, the discovery of some profound, last breath secret that answered all the great questions. No, every face simply pulled into itself, shrank and recoiled even as agony tugged and stretched, and whatever the bulging eyes saw at the last moment was, Calor now understood, something utterly banal. Now there was an enemy, banality. The demesne of the witless, the proud tower of the stupid. One did not need to be an emperor to witness it. Scan the faces of people encircling an overturned carriage, the gleam in their eyes as they strain and stretch to catch a glimpse of blood, of broken limbs, relishing some pointless tragedy that tops up their murky inkwells of life. Watch, yes, those vultures of grief, and then speak of noble humanity, so wise and so virtuous. I think Calor would agree with me that What's-His-Face from Reaper's Gale is indeed the worst person in Malazan.
Clip. Yeah.
No, not Clip. The guard guy that died.
Clip. Oh
Clip
wait, Clip
wasn't a
didn't
guard.
die. Damn.
He didn't die.
Yeah. Is this the same
Singar or
chapter
something.
where Calor talks about exploitation?
Probably. He goes on a long inner monologue rant about power.
Well, I didn't
Yeah.
highlight it, but I really liked his thoughts on exploitation. And I was like, you're right, buddy. You're a big jerk, but you're right, buddy.
By the
Because he
way,
was like
thinks-
talking about how it's like not worth it to like give up so much of your life to somebody just in exchange for like security and stuff like that.
and he's like, I'll make other people give up their lives to me.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like he gets exploitation a lot. He understands it, but he's like, I'll do the exploiting, you know?
He doesn't mind.
By the
It's
way,
messed up.
the word's pronounced domain.
Oh, is it?
Hmm.
Cool.
Are you talking about DEMESNE?
Yep.
Yeah, domain.
I looked
Cool.
it up and I was like, what? No.
I originally did not like how Steve and every other fantasy author used that word instead of domain because they mean almost the same thing, but there are like some subtle differences that might matter sometimes, I guess. So, but I think mostly they just use them interchangeably and use the fancier sounding looking one to mean and sound like the same thing.
That and jail with a G.
But
Kinda
that's
gives it archaic
literally
sounding.
the word, which
Yeah.
is what I thought Demin was, but Demin it's not literally the same word because it does have some I feel like it's mostly used as domain, but it does actually have some meaning differences. It's very subtle and slight though.
Importantly, it's also used in Crusader Kings.
I
They
have
use
no idea
Gowl
what
in
that
Canada,
is.
don't they?
It's a game series where you play as a ruler of some
You gotta
part
marry
of
off
Europe. Usually.
daughters and
Yeah,
make wars and
yeah. Marry
Okay.
your own daughters and make many
super
bastards.
super nerdy. But like, yeah, there's a lot of freedom.
It's like Civ, but like very much more into like the intricacies of medieval Europe and such.
I
Gotcha.
returned that game after playing it for 30 minutes.
Whoa.
You
Never
monster.
looked back.
Shall we move on?
I have one more quote actually.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's just two
So
quotes,
unlike
one
you.
episode. Okay, this one is from Seer Doman. The greater vastness of wealth now lay buried between more mundane trinkets, yet it was these meager offerings that seemed the most potent in their significance to Seer Doman. Their comparative value is so much greater, after all. Sacrifice must be weighed by the pain of what is surrendered, and this alone was the true measure of virtue's worth. That's essentially just a scene from the Bible copied over, but it's a good one.
I forgot. I did have a speculation in this chapter. So when we were talking about Traveler, he was thinking dying was unthinkable, and that was no exaggeration. When a man has forsaken Hood, the final gate is closed. Oblivion or the torment of a journey without end. There was no telling what fate awaited such a man. In any case, Traveler was in no hurry to discover an answer. No, he would invite Hood to find it himself. It was the least he could do. And I was like, okay, so Traveler must have cheated death somehow. Because, like, everybody thinks that Decim is dead, except for the few that know he's not.
Yeah, I'm starting to
And,
think this traveler guy is Dasim.
I don't know. I don't see it.
oh god,
For more
get out
on
of
for
here!
more on the supposed death of Dasim Ultor. See, Knight of Knives.
Yeah,
I'll
I
give
guess
They
you
he
talk
that
about
could.
it in
eventually.
Bowhunters too, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he must have done something to Hood. Like, I don't know, did he like get to Hood's gate and then escape and like or made a deal that he didn't keep or like tricked Hood somehow and now Hood is gonna have a grudge against
So
him?
It's the
not
other way
that
around.
these, not
He
that
has,
Yeah.
he
these
has a
two
grudge
people.
against Hood.
Yeah, not that these two people are related at all. But Dassam Ultor was once the champion of Hood.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Oh,
was there's mortal sword.
yeah. So
So they
you
were
might imagine a
pals.
traveler was maybe similar.
Oh, whatever, you guys.
But as much as I like your went to Hood's gate and decided to turn around theory, like that would imply that he like went back to his body because his
Yeah.
body isn't in his grave. I don't know.
I don't know. There's
I
something
don't
going
know.
on
I don't
here.
know if they would write such a consequence-free death into the series. Usually, if somebody dies, they end up like soul shifted into a puppet or like housed in with
Not
three
enough.
other souls and like somebody else or like.
Maybe he was like half dead. He was like starting to get there.
Your friend here is only mostly dead.
Yes.
He needs a bear heart every 2 weeks, or else he just shrivels up.
I can imagine how disappointed somebody would be reading this series after in book 1, like chapter 1, there's an undead puppet guy. And then through the rest of the series, there's no more puppet people.
There's Talamandus and Memory Spice.
Yeah, there's stick snare
Yeah.
guy.
Oh, okay.
But then like we don't really see him for books and books.
Yep.
Yeah, why isn't he with Quickbin? I was like so pissed because he wasn't there because I assumed he was there at the end of House of Chains. And then we see Quickbin and Bone Hunters and he's not there. Like,
I think
There's
Erikson
six snare,
forgot about
buddy.
him.
He hasn't.
He hasn't forgotten one, don't worry.
Okay, fine. Alright, now I'm ready to move on.
Okay, chapter 5. Torvald Nom acquires a bit of cash from an unethical man. We get introduced to Little Harlow. Dwicker rips up the latest draft of his work. Gaz receives a blessing from Hood. Iskaril Pust claims his rightful place in the Temple of Shadow in Darujistan. Mappo recruits the aid of Burns worshippers to get back to Ikarium. Barathol and Solara make contact with the Bridgeburners. Baruch makes an alliance. Ralik Nom discovers what has changed and what has stayed the same in his town, nearly dying in the process. Oh my god, so much plot in this one.
Yes. Also, Dwicker, didn't he like burn his work? It's all up
Yeah.
in flames.
Yeah, that's true. He just puts it in his flames. That's true.
He can't
metaphorically
piece
rips it
it
up.
back.
Can't
It's
do
like
justice to the story.
Exactly.
So
Poor Oh, go ahead.
I think that's kind of meta, right?
Yes.
Erikson teases me so hard in this Relic Nom scene because in the first book, which is the last time we see Relic Nom, he puts the Onotarial dust on his skin and he climbs up the tower and it says that he began his ascent. I predicted that Relic Nom would become an ascendant from that point, and he teases us with it here. Like it's like so almost. They're like, oh yeah, there was a cult about you. Everybody worships you. And then he just like kind of isn't an ascendant. And I'm like, yeah, you're like right there, man. Like that's one of the paths to ascendancy. Just keep going.
I in that same scene though, he's like, well, maybe not so much worship. It's more like
You kind of
like this
respect
other
your
thing.
methods.
I know. I was at first when I read it, I was like, theory confirmed.
I like the idea that Ralik Nom has just like sprouted a bunch of like crunchy hippies around him. They're like, oh man, you gotta
Crunchy
go that
hippies.
low magic. You gotta go that low magic route. You know, like this it dulls your senses, makes it like super bad at actually being an assassin. Just use like Odotarl dust. It's super natural and good for you.
This reminds me of Barry. Have you ever seen Barry?
I saw the first episode today.
Barry is today. Wow,
Yeah.
what a coincidence. It is a black comedy / action / horror, I guess, about a guy named Barry who is an assassin, and he's played by that Saturday Night Live guy who usually plays like goofy, sappy roles. and he's-
Stefano.
Huh?
So he plays Stefano, right? That's one of his characters, one of his most famous ones.
I know him from Skeleton Twins, which probably nobody else has seen. But yeah.
His name is Bill Hader.
Bill Hader, that's the guy.
I know Bill Hader.
Yeah, so Bill Hader plays as an assassin, and he decides he wants to quit the life and become an actor. So he because he assassinates an actor in the first episode, and he's like goes to the acting class to like figure something out about the job, and he's like, "Oh, I could do this." And it's all about like the contradiction between being a guy that kills people for a living and a guy who's taking acting classes trying to be an actor. Yeah, that's what it
Nice.
reminds me of.
Sounds funny. I forgot what we were talking about.
Ralik Nom, Chapter 5. Bridge burners getting drunk under the table by.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's Scylla and Barathol and Chowr. Oh, Chowr's just watching. I love Chowr.
Yeah.
He's so nice.
That was a really fun scene to read. It was just the
Mhm.
way that they were going back and forth, and then the waitress is just like, you know what? No more.
I'm not going to be privy to this. I know what's going on here.
I really respect the bridge burners for knowing what the last drink is going to do to them.
Yeah.
And just being like,
And they're like-
okay, you win. Just hire us a carriage to
Yeah.
take us back.
It was quarrel milk.
Oh, God.
Gross.
Can you imagine what that is? I can't. It sounds disgusting, though.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
sounds very
know.
like fermented and clotted. And
Yes.
yeah.
I liked Ansie's trying to talk crap about how badass he is, but his friends have known him too long, so it doesn't work. He's like, well, I once plunged straight into a squad of Crimson Guard, and they're like, you fell out of a tree! He's like, and made it out alive. And I once stood down a charging wild boar. It wasn't wild, it was Trotz's pet. And you made a grunt that sounded just like a sow. And at the last moment, I jumped right over it. It threw you into a wall. So if anyone here's got the guts to start, and he just keeps going like they didn't contradict everything he says. It's one of my favorite scenes. It's why I like Ansie, by the way. You guys thought it was weird that I liked Ansie. It's because
I like how voyeuristic he is.
what he is.
Voyeuristic.
Isn't voyeuristic when you?
He's
want
always trying to
other
fix
people
that
to
door,
watch?
that Picker and Blend.
Oh no, it's
the
exhibition.
door to their room. He works hard on it every day.
Oh, gross. But yes, I loved and missed the dynamics.
Good stuff. Is Gaz your new favorite character?
Who?
Gaz, the guy with no fingers.
Yeah, he just kind of beats people up.
Right, that guy who's also like trying to get killed or something.
Yeah, he's trying to get killed by just starting fights and killing people with his fists that aren't fists.
Yeah.
They don't have
no,
fingers.
Not
Hard to
my
imagine.
favorite. Dude, Erikson introduced so many characters in this first book, and it's just a lot.
It's by no means a record for him, though, right? Like,
But like, it's
I
like
would say, like,
different
every
context.
like Memories of Ice and Bone Hunters have more characters introduced. But yeah, that's true.
I think it's just a lot of context switching here, and like, you know, when he introduces like 20 Malazan soldiers in one go or something, at least they're all like in the same context. But this is like, there's this dude who has no fingers, and then there's little Harlow, and then there's like whatever Snell.
A terrible name. I feel like Eustace Scrum. Snell's a name that kid deserves.
I think if you're naming a kid Snell, you're just setting him up for failure.
He did. He's a big bully.
And Harlow is the most precious little boy I've ever read, and he should be protected at all costs.
Harlow steals vegetables from the market, and he deserves to be put in jail.
He
I hate
steals
you so
vegetables to feed his family.
His
No
good,
excuses. Property rights are
family.
inviolable.
Oh, little heart. Like, that was a very interesting section because the point of view is so different I mean, like, we've gotten younger character point of views, but this one is like particularly young. And when I was reading the section, I was like, what is this uncle one, aunt one, mother none? And I was like, what? It was like very poetic as well, the way that it was written. And then you find out like who he is, and and his mom can't even look at him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get it, Sonny. Like, I get it. But at the same time, like, the kid, it's not his fault. He's innocent. But at least he's being
Yep.
taken care of.
And it's kind of a mirrored situation to Solara, right?
Yeah,
So there we go. Look at that, another parallel. Crazy.
that's true. I'm sorry.
I really like the conversation. This is probably like my favorite Corrupt conversation in the whole series, where Crocus is back in the Phoenix Inn, and Corrupt is just like asking him all sorts of like inane questions, and Crocus has no idea how to respond. And then like a little bit of authenticity shines through with Corrupt for like a second. Yeah, so he says, years past, Cutter, who was once named Crocus, we would not have a discussion such as this, yes? Krupp sees and sees very well. He sees sorrow and wisdom both, pain and still open wounds, love found and love lost, a certain desperation that still spins like a coin. Which way will it fall? Question as yet unanswered, a future as yet undecided. So, old friend now returned. Let us drink. Thus yielding the next few moments to companionable silence.
Oh, yeah. I relate to Crocus a lot in this scene.
I relate to Crocus a lot in this book. I used to hate Crocus.
I don't hate him as much anymore.
Yeah, he's just so broken. Like, he nearly kills Rallick. Like, how insane is that?
Yeah.
Well, what I relate to is going back, to your hometown and everything appears the same, but then it's like completely different.
Yep,
And you
been there.
expecting it to, yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've grown up and people recognize this. And I think the best part of growing up is like getting to have these kinds of conversations with people that you like grew up respecting. And now you're on a level playing field, sort of. Kudos to Krupp for giving him that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The few times I've gone back to Florida, it's been like that. But now I'm
Yeah.
not stupid enough to go downtown and try to find the people I used to hang out with. So
Mm.
just like I'm here with the kids to see Florida, and I'll see my family and like maybe one or two people. We're not here for the nostalgia because it's not. None of it's real. It's all fake. Everything's changed.
Mm-hmm.
I moved around a lot as a kid, and there would be times where like my family would go back to a community that we used to be really close with, and I would visit the friends back there, and it's just every time it's just so different. Like the dynamics have changed, especially when you're a kid where, in a year for you're growing so much, you change so much. Um it's it feels like, the friends that you had really close relationships with, like they found other people to replace you basically. um but now, like, my college friends, we still get together, and even if we don't see each other for like a year or two, when we get back together, it's more like, for a lot of us, we're able to pick up where we left off. And I think it's also because we spent a lot of formative years and time together during college. So it's not as drastic of a change. But I mean, people still grow apart and relationships change and people change. So I mean, it's kind of interesting to think of, like, for us, the four of us, when we first started this whole journey, like how we were, and now 2 years in, going on our third year, like what's it gonna be like, when we're done?
Oh man, we're gonna start a new series, of course.
Yeah, do we have to? I mean, we probably have to, right?
And well, this is why Ikaria makes the best friend because he never moves on, right?
Maybe
Speaking
the
of
kind of
Ikariam-
series that only needs 1 to 2 discussions per book.
Not Carcanus.
You guys have
Oh, man.
already had all the discussions in the spoiler episodes.
No, there's
there's
so
a lot
much more.
Oh my
There's-
god.
Oh god. Yeah, that's a
I-
deep series.
We could probably do the Witness trilogy in 2 episodes, or the first
Maybe.
Witness book.
The first one we could absolutely do in like 1 or 2 episodes, but who knows for the rest.
Speaking of Ikariam, I love Mappo's section and getting escorted through the city and
Mhm.
finding the dead body. He's just so nice. Can't help but love Mappo.
But he's mopey,
Oh.
so I don't like him.
I thought you liked mopey ones.
I do. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, you are.
Mhm.
And he gets to bathe in blood. Good for him. I
You're
think that's
so
really good for your skin.
dramatic. Seriously.
Yeah.
And
But,
it's really sad when Barathol is like watching him go. He's like, "Yeah, he's gonna kill himself," and there's literally nothing I can do because there's nothing to say, right? Like sometimes you see someone going down a bad path, and there's nothing you can say that's gonna change things, right?
Yeah.
Very
I
sad.
support Mappo's decision.
Well, he's gonna go find Akarium, and who knows? Well, I mean, you guys know what happens, but I don't. So
Mr. Runt, I love you.
at least somebody remembers Burn.
How is he going to
Nobody-
find Akarium? Akarium turned into fire in the machine in the last
Well,
book.
isn't he going through this Burns gate? And there's some sort of river.
He's going
thingy?
into the realm of the metaphysical, maybe.
Yeah,
Oh, like going wherever Akarium went when he went into the machine?
that's my guess.
It's really
And
cold there.
See, I assumed Akarium was dead at the end of Reaper's Gale.
I don't think he's dead. I think he's transcended.
So I was like, oh, Mappo's going to get there just after Karsa leaves. Like, he's going to get to Letherus through Burns' realm or whatever, just after Karsa left and after Ikarium died. And he's going to be like, my quest was completely useless. That was like my
It's
prediction.
even
at the
sadder.
point. Yeah, I was like, this is all pointless because that's all over already. We saw how that ended.
We haven't really talked about Duiker.
Wicker? Yeah.
We mentioned him, but he's also in a funk. And honestly, like, I feel really, really bad for him. And I get it. Like, he's alive, but feels guilty. He can't be happy that he's alive. He has all of this trauma that he carries with him and the sadness. And he's just like, you know what? Everything is so meaningless. It's all temporary and meaningless. And I don't know.
He needs to filter those emotions and feelings and thoughts and histories into some sort of productive.
Yeah.
But
And if he would have, before this point, maybe Malikrel wouldn't have been able to get out of jail. And
Maybe.
I think Malazan just had a get out of jail free card.
yeah, but would he if the Imperial Historian was like, here's my official account, and that guy's a jerk?
Maybe he had 2 get out of jail free cards.
I think things would have been different. I don't know how different, but I am kind of peeved that at Dwicker. Although I understand, and I don't blame him.
Victim
but-
blamer.
Yeah, right. But all of these people died to save him, so that he could tell their stories.
Yeah.
And he just he isn't. He's failing to do it.
Yeah.
Which maybe it's unfair that they put that on him, but at the same time,
That was kind of his role there.
it was his role, and he knew what it was the entire time. And Coltane, like himself, was like, "Please tell our stories," and he just hasn't.
And instead, like, so many Wiccans got murdered and slaughtered.
Well, in their what's the opposite of defense? Offense. In their offense, they
Yeah.
are savages, and they deserve it.
That's true.
For more about events on the Wiccan plane, read Return of the Crimson Guard.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we're good to go. Chapter 6.
6.
Chapter 6. Traveler, Shadowthrone, and Cotillion catch up. I guess they know each other from somewhere. Nimander and co. have a rather unpleasant night. Clip party's a little too hard. Later, they meet a really old man and let him ride in their wagon. The worshippers of the Redeemer can't handle the rejection of Seerdomin. Traveler meets some depressingly pathetic tribespeople.
Oh,
And oh man, you can really tell that these tribespeople have
I
had
love
like
them.
the worst time. I like them too, but like their opening spiel is like, please don't kill us, please don't rape our women. We'll give you food, we'll give you whatever you want. Don't steal our stuff. It's like a really long list. It's just
Yeah.
But they're not as pathetic as that list makes it seem, though, because they say all this stuff and they like wait for him to agree, and then like once he agrees and is like, and they like realize he's cool, like all their bowmen pop out of the
and
like
spearmen.
bushes and like like they're like ready to kill him. They're just like
Yeah.
so it's kind of like
yes.
They're practical, but still, they've gone through a lot. You can tell just from the
sure. Sure, they have
It
gone through
feels
a
like
lot.
they've learned like very hard lessons, like
Yes.
repeatedly. Like they were like Pacific Islanders a couple hundred years ago, and now they are just like
Yeah, that's an interesting story. I'd like to
unable
learn
to-
more. Like, why do you look like this? Why are you here? It's a long story.
The
You need a
epigraph for
bath.
this chapter reminds me that one of my favorite characters in this series is a character you never really get to meet, and I'm sick of not meeting him, and it's Kellenved. Like, you meet Shadowthrone, and you meet, if you read Paths to Ascendancy, you meet who he was before he took the name Kellenved, and before he became a Manus. And those people are not Kellenved. Like, the guy who said the stuff here, if he's even a real person, and this isn't all just made up and put in history books and attributed to him, this guy, I want to see a series about that character. And you see so much of it in like Dead House Gates and this, like Tavor talking about stuff from the past and other people talking about it, but you never actually get to meet him. And this quote is just so, like, the epigraph is just so cool. I love what he says here. And I'm like, I want to hang out with Kellenved, not Shadowthrone.
I'd hang out with
is cool.
Shadowthrone.
I
No,
want to hang out with
totally.
Shadowthrone too.
No, yeah, but we get a lot of that in this, and what we don't get is Kellenved, and I want more Kellenved.
Well, maybe in the next PTA book.
The miracle of hindsight is how it transforms great military geniuses of the past into complete idiots, and incompetent idiots of the present into great military geniuses. There is the door, and be sure to take all your pompous second-guessing delusions with you, is the quote. And I want to meet that guy. And you don't really get to. You just get to meet a guy that used to be him, or a guy that will be him.
Do you think that Kellenved and Kalor are pretty similar?
That's
There's an
interesting.
thought. Yeah.
Except, like, he's, like, seems to be a good ruler, and Kalor seems to be kind of a jerk. Except a lot
Kalor
of that
is not a bad ruler.
Right, yeah, I forgot that's a lot of his rule is kind of hinted throughout the series to have been much more benevolent than we first think.
I feel like they're
He's just a
pretty
giant
similar.
Tool.
They might be, yeah, that's true.
I feel like Kellenved is a lot more philanthropic.
Okay.
I would sort of agree, and also Kellenved and Shadowthrone seem to be like next level geniuses. Although, of course, geniuses of shadow, so, like everything is duplicitous, and you can never be quite sure as to, like, what's actually going on there.
Do you think they're as smart as Kalor thinks he is?
Yeah, I don't think that anyone is as smart as Kalor thinks he is.
Kalor is also a steward, and Kellenved is a like cunning strategist, and he's good at like picking the right people to do the right jobs, and he's good at like understanding history, but he like goes off and ignores stewardship completely. Like once he like puts people in charge, he's like, okay, bye, I'm gonna go off and do more adventures. And Kalor is like an actual ruler who like stewards over his empire until he was.
Well, it's because Kellenved graduated from stewardship.
Sort of.
The stories that we hear in Deadhouse Gates and other places about his tenure suggest that he never really was a steward at all. He just was like, oh, the next military conquest, the next mystery to unfold, the next arcane secret to chase down, whatever it is, the next he was good at expanding the empire and getting it all under one banner, and then he's like, all right, now you guys take care of it while I keep going and doing other stuff.
He's a delegator.
And he's a really good delegator, yeah. And he's also exceptionally good at setting up no-lose scenarios for himself. He sets up deals where, he's giving someone else something, but no matter what happens, he's still going to win. And I think he says that explicitly at some point in the series. And as far as I can tell, it's just true, right?
Yeah, he plays both sides, all sides.
Yeah. And everyone knows this. And they can tell, as soon as, this is a shifty guy. And he still outsmarts them. A lot of the time. Not always.
Well, speaking of Shadow Throne, so, this whole conversation between Cotillion, Shadow Throne, and Traveler, there's definitely stuff going on where it's okay, if we go back to the prologue, where if the hooded character is indeed Hood and Shadow Throne was meeting with him and Edgewalker, and if they were plotting on the end game, but here it's oh no, yeah, we want to support you to go kill Hood. It's just complete opposite, and so I'm just all right. I mean, they're definitely playing all the sides, but what, and also Mail is involved somehow, where Mail is trying to delay Dassam from killing Hood. I guess because Mail and Hood are buddies. And the way that they talk about Mail, it's just such a disconnect from the bug that we see. And I can't reconcile that. It's very hard. It's just
For
very
more
different
on
character.
the nature of Mail as an elder god, read A Return of the Crimson Guard.
Yeah, you get to understand a lot more about him there.
Okay.
It's very instructive, I would say. But
Actually, I really like that part.
It's one of the best parts in that book, in that blooded book.
Yeah, an elder god doesn't have the luxury of only being one thing. I'll say.
Okay.
Dang it.
So I need to kind of wrap here in a minute, but I wanted to read one more quote about Calvin and how awesome he is, if you guys don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's the description from when Nimander sees Calor, and it says, striding like one fevered under the sun, the stranger came ever closer. Something about him compelled Nimander's attention, a kind of dark fascination, for what he couldn't quite name. A cascade of images tumbled through his mind, as if he was watching an apparition bludgeoning its way out from some hoary legend, from a time when gods struggled, hands about each other's throats, when blood fell as rain and the sky itself rolled and crashed against the shores of the abyss. All this, riding across the dusty air between them as the old man came up to the road. All this, written in the deep lines of his gaunt visage, in the bleak wastelands of his gray eyes. He is as winter, murmured Skintick. Yes, and something colder. Dude, Calor is such a badass. They got that just from looking at this dude walking up the road. Oh my god, he's so cool.
And major props to Steve, because that is such a badass. Just
it is. I heard that. I was trying to go to sleep listening to that in the middle of the night, and I got up and I was like, I need to highlight this for the podcast. Let me find it on Kindle, as I'm trying to go to bed. And I was like, if I don't do it, I'm gonna forget. Yeah. That's the thing I most wanted to read on the podcast. I was just like, oh man, this is the Calor book, and this is a perfect example of why this is the Calor book.
What's next?
That discussion prompted something. Another thing I really like about Shadow Throne, because as he is a god, right, and people do worship him, but given his nature, he's kind of found a cheat code to not have that influence him too much, I think, because nobody can agree on like what they're worshiping, and like everybody knows that what they are worshiping is like mostly an illusion. So it feels to me that like he doesn't get his behavior pulled around as much as the other gods, simply because of like the nature of Shadow and the way that he comports himself, which is so
That's
smart,
true.
I think. Like he's
Well,
found a way
I
to
mean,
get like
if you look at his high priest Iskral Pust, right? Like that guy is shifty, chaotic, like I don't even know how to describe him anymore. But I guess he's a reflection of Shadow Throne.
yes, but the high priestess that they meet in Tajikistan doesn't seem to be that, right?
That's true.
Like she seems like a no nonsense kind of woman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So does that
smart
mean
guy.
Cotillion is in the same boat? How does that work for
I think
Cotillion?
if I had to guess, Cotillion kind of skates by because he's the patron of assassins, and not many people find that to be an appealing thing to worship. And assassins
Oh,
themselves are like so jaded that their worship isn't as zealous as
okay.
others. But I could be wrong there. But yeah, he also seems to have escaped the uh, audience capture of being a god.
Gotcha. So this dying god, is it a crippled god?
Um,
I thought so too.
uh,
That's all I'm saying.
I thought it
I will
was,
say, go ahead.
yeah. Well, I mean, I thought it was the crippled god, but I mean, is maybe not.
The worship of the dying god is significantly different from the worship of the crippled god. I will say so. There is a lot of similarity here, but also like a pretty big difference in the outlook between the religions that are popping up around them.
Okay. Well, then my next guess is like, is it Krull? But that also
Oh,
doesn't, because like Krull is like was a dying god.
Yeah, he's significantly weakened. Um, I don't think it could be Kroll because
Because reasons.
the dying god just kind of seems really toxic, and Kroll doesn't
Yeah.
kind of come off that.
Okay, then is it Burn who's getting poisoned? Okay, I'll stop.
It's an interesting guess.
that is an interesting guess. And I didn't find the dying god compelling at all when I first read this, but I'm starting to get it now, honestly. The
Like,
Hmm?
there's this is probably one of the most interesting bits because it's like such a direct impact on a set of people, a set of characters, and the
Hmm.
things around the dying god. It's like this is like very horrific.
Yeah, it's like what happens when you. So all of these characters are struggling with questions of grief and meaning, and this seems to be a picture of what happens at the very extreme end if you just give into it all and you accept it and you start to like revel in it in a very unhealthy way, in a way that. So the crippled god, like, he encourages his worshippers to revel in their own deformities, but the dying god, his worshippers seem to revel in the nihilism, like the extreme nihilism, the dark nihilism of what happens in a meaningless world, and like it's unclear as to whether they're so they experience a form of like really deep ecstasy, and um, part of it is voyeuristic, and part of it is like reveling in their own like the pointlessness of everything, you know. And that's a really
Okay.
interesting imagery, I think, to set up.
Well,
I
go ahead.
I agree that I was not particularly interested in the dying god himself. And by that I mean everything Ashman said is true, and I agree, and I find the religion following them and the worshippers and the relationship and the faith very interesting. I just don't think that the mystery behind the uh who the dying god is all that compelling.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, that's the weakest part of it by far.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But to me, like the way that this first book is set out, it's like setting up the dying god as the big bad for Toll the Hounds. That's how
Mhm.
I'm reading it.
I think it's
So
a fair
that's
way to
why I
read it.
think it's like, okay, well, is this pointing to the crippled god? And like, what is he gonna do with Clip's soul? What are the consequences of that? So,
Hopefully devour it.
well, yeah.
No.
But like,
What does that even
the
mean?
thing
I
is,
don't even know what that means.
to me, this is book 8 in a 10-book series. If this is a net new character that is getting introduced and this character is going to have like significant impact on the story, like this is so late in the game.
I will say at this point in the series, there's almost nothing that's entirely new that's set up.
Okay.
Almost nothing.
Yeah.
And yeah, the dying god's important for this book.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just because we're getting late in the series doesn't mean that it's gonna like for example, Dead House Gates was a self-contained story that had a beginning, middle, and end that didn't necessarily add to the overall plot, did it? And it's not going to change just because we're in book 8. Although a lot of that does happen too.
I think Dead House Gates is probably the worst example of pick here because the events of the Chain of Gods, the Chain of Dogs, like have such an impact on the rest of the series. But I agree with what you're saying. Yeah.
I guess part of it is because myself, I'm like, all right, Erikson, I'm ready for you to wrap up the series. And I know there's still so much more coming.
You'll
But
be
I'm
very
like,
you'll be so
come on.
satisfied at the end of this book.
This
Yeah,
book?
I
Just
think
trust
so too.
us.
Yeah, I think you'll really enjoy the end of this book.
All right, I trust you. It's a lot of pages I gotta get through.
Okay, I got a quote to read.
Okay.
It's in a different section though. It's about what was the new priest of the Redeemers called?
I don't remember her name.
Well, she's talking about faith. Let me find it. It's my feeling, she said haltingly, that a faith that delivers perfect answers to every question is not a true faith, for its only purpose is to satisfy, to ease the mind, and so end its questing. Is it for faith to deliver peace when all sides inequity thrives? For it shall indeed thrive when the blessed walk past blissfully blind, content in their own moral purity, in the peace filling their souls. Oh, you might then reach out a hand to the wretched by the roadside, offering them your own footpaths, and you may see the blessed burgeon in a number grow into a multitude until you are as an army. But there will ever be those who turn away from your hand, the ones who quest because it is their nature to quest, who fear the seduction of self-satisfaction, who mistrust easy answers. Are these ones to be your enemy? Does the army grow anger now? Does it strike out at the unbelievers? Does it crush them underfoot? Yeah, that's I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say that.
To me, it reminds me very much of the in a previous book he talks about how the notion of a life after death is profoundly cynical.
Mm-hmm.
Very much echoes of that here, I think, and expansions on similar ideas.
It's when I read that, I think of the self-righteousness of many religious people and how unfortunate that is.
Mm-hmm. I really like Aranatha in this section and the implications that she has for what's going on. Like Nimander thinks to himself early on that she has kind of like an unbreakable hope that's born entirely out of being naive. And she is the one that saves Nimander and Skintick later. Which, like, in some really beautiful imagery, I think. And there's a piece of art from this scene from the Subterranean Press editions, I think, that is amazing. Yeah, so all that stuff, very good.
Yeah, the last bits of my notes here would be when, who was it? Was it Barenthal? Somebody? Oh no, sorry. Okay, I remember. So it was Traveler meeting those tribes people, right? And they give him turtle meat to eat, and they're like, "You're gonna dream of tunneling in the ground." That is such a like interesting concept because they were saying like food has memory,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, can you imagine if that were real? Like you eat it and you just like you get the last glimpse of whatever that thing like experience. That there is a comic book series called Chew, And it's about this character who's a detective and also has powers where he sees psychic impressions by what he eats. So it's just such an
Oh, so
interesting concept.
CHEW.
Yeah, CHEW. I think there's also
I thought it
a
might be
TV
CHU.
show. Well, the character's name is Tony Chu, CHU.
Ah,
Um,
even better. That's awesome.
I haven't read it all the way through, but it's just such an interesting concept. And Erikson just like throws it in here, like, and there's also this in this world.
Mhm.
I bet he read that about some culture who believes this practice, and he's like, "Hey, that's cool. Let's throw it in there."
Probably.
Yeah, and there's like a really long history and so many examples of tribes that use various hallucinogenic substances.
Mhm.
So, it's possible they also just cook this turtle meat with like magic mushrooms and then prime people to think you're going to dig through Earth, and then it's a self-fulfilling
happens.
prophecy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally,
That's
I'm a
true.
big fan of like their mega aphrodisiac. is this female tribeswoman, she comes into his tent and just like it gives him a mouthful of spit.
There is
But it's
no
like
seed left in
spiced
his
with
body, Chris.
something.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess you could argue this is a problematic scene if you want.
I
Yeah.
mean,
He does get
sure.
drugged and he has sex. But yeah.
Yeah, so we have some listener questions, and two of them we've already kind of answered, but we have a few from a few of our listeners. One from Lemony Snicket says, "How did you feel about the level of hand holding here? It felt Erikson did a good job reintroducing characters without over info dumping."
I mean, I agree. In that he didn't info dump for the characters that he was reintroducing. For the characters that are new, I was just like, let's get on with it.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can't comment on the info because your eyes are just glazed over anyways.
How many new characters are there? There's Gaz, his wife, Torvald's
Humble
wife,
Measure.
Humble Measure.
Is Endoslan is new and Spinning Sarov are new, essentially.
Yeah, they're
I
new.
think.
Seer Doman's technically not new, but he's basically new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harlow is new.
Oh, Harlow's very new. And his family.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so question 2.
The level of handling I think is appropriate, and he has an easy out because Kruppa's especially explicitly narrating the story, so some of the over exposition is more naturally integrated. There we go.
I will say I did use Search of the Fallen quite a few times to just remind myself. I was like, Torvald Nam, that sounds very familiar. I know this character, but I forgot. So I did have to do Search of the Fallen for a few. So whoever made Search of the Fallen, thank you.
Question 2 from Linguini Sauce. Are we supposed to know what the new beverage is? The god in question must be the crippled god, or do we have a new one to fight? We answered the
kind of
second
talk
part.
about this. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the new
I guess we could
beverage.
just skip this one.
Okay.
Salmon Kellic, I think it's
Yeah, it's called
introduced
Kellic.
us.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of talk about that too, which is very disgusting.
Oh yeah, I wanted to bring that
if
up.
it is correct.
It's not that I liked when they were talking about it, and it was something like people get pleasure from the suffering of others, and it reminded me of parallels of people in first world countries enjoying like third world countries' products, or even especially drugs, and like you have to import this
Oh.
stuff, and it's used by slave labor, and our pleasure is directly causing other people's suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Last from Lady Sweden. How many characters to catch up with? Who did you enjoy meeting again most?
Shadow Throne. Always Shadow Throne.
I
But also
liked seeing
Spinectorav,
the three-legged dog.
that mysterious three-legged
Okay.
dog.
I was really happy to see that dog.
Aw. I guess for me, I mean, always the Malazan soldiers, but I actually really enjoyed Cotillion, and I mean, I already said Raced was one of my favorite characters in one of the chapters. So
Raised you.
yeah.
So thank you to our
All of our listeners.
listeners. Shall I call out?
Sun Gamer and Eon. Thank you for submitting
yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, There's quite a bit that we still haven't talked about, but I mean, there's so much that we could say. So I think
Yeah.
we're good. If there's anything in particular that people want to hear our thoughts on, which I'm still
Yeah, type
like
it, and we'll bring it up next episode.
why? But sure. Let me just say this. I still find it very like mind-blowing that there are so many people who listen to our ramblings. Like, thank you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I appreciate it, and you guys are all so nice too.
Yeah.
Yes. And also smart. Yeah. There are a lot of very intelligent Malazan fans out there who have really good discussions with us and each other
Mhm.
and off on their own.
Hmm.
Cool. So enough with the mushy stuff. Shall we end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose we must.
That concludes this episode. If you want to join the read along and or contribute listener questions, check us out on the Legendarium's Discord. You can find the link at thelegendarium.com and follow us on Twitter at Green Team Pod for updates and fun times. Check out the Legendarium podcast for Wheel of Time, Cosmere, Lord of the Rings content, and so much more. Thank you to our panelists, Ashaman, Janath as a boy, and Befuddled Panda. I'm Hurinfan. See you next time.
Next time.
Bye-bye.
Pew,
Bye-bye.
Pew pew.
pew, pew, pew.
So was the spoilers episode you guys recorded, is that for the Reaper's Gale?
Yeah.
It's for Carcanus.
Nominally, yes.
Okay.
I suppose
Do you talk
could-
about Reaper's Gale?
Do we? I don't remember.
Incidentally, yeah.
Oh my god.